Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across this beautiful blue-green globe of ours. And Dave, I just want you to know, I always start that way. This is not aimed at you. Welcome to Real News Live. It's a Deep Thought Thursday. We're going to have a special guest on in just a couple minutes, Flat Earth Dave. And that was not aimed at you, Dave. I ask anybody, I always open the show that way. The beautiful blue-green globe of ours. All right, guys, in terms of the news, there really isn't much update on the financial end of things. Everything is in stasis. Nothing really seems to be changing. It's pretty interesting because if you look again at the cryptos, the cryptocurrencies continue to crash. Bitcoin is 21,153. It's up about 2% in the last 24 hours because markets are being flooded to stabilize them, but it's down over 30% now. In the last week, it just continues to get worse, and it's dragging all of the other coins with them for the most part. Even XRP, which is actually doing a little better. XRP is going to be part of the reset, I think, that we're looking for in the future. And the Dow, it went under 29,000. Remember, I told you, as far as I'm concerned, 29,000 is the floor. The day's range today is 29,808. If it goes below 30,000 is the floor. If it goes below 30,000, I predict the bottom will fall out of the stock market with the inverted bond yield curves. I think that's where the whole thing started. We're down 589 today, but they are pumping money into the stock market to try to keep it above 30,000. They are just treading water, trying to dog paddle. If it closes below 30,000, I think the next day is when things start to happen. Now, in terms of rumors on other stuff on the financial end of things, I continue to hear the rumor that people are going to get paid on some of the payouts in the early tiers of this financial reset that's coming. Nothing like that really seems to be happening in any significant way. There are no solid reports of people receiving their 1%. So that hasn't started yet. On the political end of things, we have Joe Biden threatening to use executive orders to have abortions in states that ban abortion if the Supreme Court comes down with the ruling we all think they're going to come down with. He can't do that. That's against the separation of powers. And in any event, no state is required to follow any executive order because they're not part of the executive branch. Therefore, they don't have to worry about that. So we have this escalating series of events on the financial end of things, on the political end of things. It all seems to be waiting on the political end for Roe versus Wade. It all seems to be waiting on the financial end for the collapse of the current fiat U.S. currency system, which has not quite happened yet. It was supposed to be a big week in news, says Rick Norman, and it really hasn't. Okay, so before we go to Dave, I do want to remind you guys to please visit our wonderful sponsors, those folks right there, the CBD Gurus. They have a bunch of great products, various CBD products. They are wonderful people. Matt and Luke over there create all kinds of cool stuff. For the CBD Gurus website, you got gummies, you've got full spectrum oils, you've got creams and pain powders and bath bombs and CBD soaps, which smell very masculine, by the way. And if you go over to the wholesale section, click on Mike B Wholesale and type in the discount code ALIEN, ALIEN. And yes, I do believe there are aliens. You can go in and get some of the specials on various things that are in there, including the pet oil, which I'm using on Aurora, and Miss Fluffy Muffy, and the Miracle Gold, which is something I've got to try. I don't have that yet. I'm going to have to try that one. Ask those guys to get some from them. Plus, you get 10,000 Vietnamese dong if you sign up. So, again, our sponsor is the CBD Gurus. Welcome, guys, and thank you for being there. Okay, so what I want to set aside most of today for, since it is Deep Thought Thursday, is to talk about the Flat Earth theory. And there are a lot of people out there, including Phil. Phil did his update last night. All he really said was, Phil Godleski, all he really said was he was told things were coming soon. There was going to be movement soon. I don't know about that. We'll have to wait and see. But we invited Flat Earth Dave to come in and talk about his theories of the Flat Earth. I am a globalist in the sense that I believe the Earth is a globe. I'm going to discuss this with Dave. This is not a debate. I'm not going to try to catch him anything. We'll have questions. I don't know what he's going to present. I know he's got videos out there. I really haven't had time to watch them. I've seen other Flat Earth presentations. I have found the information to be wanting. However, I have heard from other people that Dave is so great that I'll be convinced of it by the end of it. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm going to bring him in now. Welcome, Flat Earth Dave, to the Real News Live podcast. Thanks.
That is a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. I have to say, in your opening, I listened to your news from yesterday. We agree on everything from your view of the Earth all the way to aliens, extraterrestrials. We agree on it all. But we're going to talk about the globe. And yes, this is not a debate. This is two men, friends talking. That's it.
Okay, so I think I can share. I need to be able to set it up so that you can share your screen.
I don't need to share. I can do stuff like this. No flat earther thinks that we're a disc floating in space.
Okay,
only
because
globies think that flat earthers think that.
I will say this, that there are some people that think that's what you guys think.
Well, no. So listen carefully. Listen carefully what I said. Globe people don't know their own model, and I'm going to demonstrate that today. And the idea that they've been told about our model is absolutely ridiculous. So one, they don't understand their own model, and two, they think our model is this, which is absolutely retarded. No flat earther thinks this. So now that we take two false models off the table, we can start talking about the real model. And do we have an exact model? Hey, here's what we all agree on. Flat earthers have different views, and we'll get into that on how this place is constructed. But one thing we all know for sure is we're not a ball floating in an impossible space vacuum, and science can prove that. We love science. We use science. We don't just say things and then say, oh, scientists have shown. No, we actually show you the science. So we're going to get into that today.
Okay, sounds good. Why don't you just go ahead and I'll leave it to you for a few minutes. If I have a question, if you don't mind, I'll pop in and
interrupt me at any time. I rather do questions than presentations because I don't have a presentation. I'm talking to you and so you can keep us split screen. It's fine for now. So we can see each other. Whatever you want to do.
Okay.
So let me ask you a couple of questions. And when I was asked these questions, I got them all wrong. Okay, just so you know, so you have a goal of 0 correct to match my score when I was first asked. How fast is the Earth spinning at the equator?
Oh, geez. I don't know. Think about 6,000 miles an hour. I don't know that one off the top of my head.
That's really fast. 1,000 miles an hour, rounding
up. Okay, so it's 1,000 miles an hour. Okay.
And what about
it's not something I've really ever worried about.
What about in Alaska? Is it spinning at the same speed? Is it spinning faster? Is it spinning slower?
That's interesting. It should be spinning, I would think, relative. Yeah, it should be. If the globe is spinning, the whole globe should be spinning at the same speed.
Well, yes, the angular speed once a day. So if this is the equator here, right? We go around once a day, 24,000 miles around. And so it's going about 1,000 miles an hour. But if you're here, like up near the pole, your circle is much smaller. It goes around 360 degrees in the same amount of time, but it's going much slower.
But again, what's relevant is the momentum.
Relative to a point in space.
In space, right.
Okay. So the like if I was 1 mile from the North Pole on a globe, my circle around the North Pole is only 6.28 miles. So I'm really going like a third of a mile an hour, or even slower. But at the equator, you're going faster. Just want people to understand that. We're orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. We're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles per hour. This is your model. Now, I'm not making this crap up. This is your model. So, and these speeds aren't relative speeds. They're elliptical. They're speeding up and slowing down. They're moving in all these different directions at once. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson, the high priest of scientism, he says that because of the spin, the water bulges 14 miles high at the equator. How come the Central Africa isn't underwater? Okay, if that's true, where is the best viewing of this 14-mile high bulge? Because it's higher than Everest. Airplanes would have to triple their altitude just to skim over that water if that was true. So that's insanity. All right. So let's just put this into relative speed, and I'm going to throw it back to you.
There's also a tidal bulge, gravitational tidal bulge on the Earth from the Moon, which is roughly in the plane of the ecliptic, and the plane of the Earth's equator, which also pulls that water up
We'll
at
talk
the.
about tides
Okay,
next. Nope,
all right.
no problem.
Okay,
No problem. Feel free to interrupt anytime because I can talk.
okay.
So let's just put this into perspective, right? This is the hypersonic sled track. It goes by at Mach 8.6. Watch it. You missed it. Watch it again carefully.
Sorry.
Okay. Mach 8. Watch it carefully. What Mach 8.6. Okay. And you have to believe that we are orbiting the sun 10 times faster than that, and we're chasing the sun at 100 times faster than that. But when we go out in nature, we see things like this. Perfectly still water. I stamp my foot on the ground, it's going to send ripples across it. An earthquake happens, forget about it. The water will jump out of its container, right? You ever see a pool during an earthquake?
Well,
Here's
yeah,
a pool during an earthquake.
An
That's
earthquake is localized. That's a localized event, though. In other words, the Earth is not shaking 6,000 miles through the other side of the crust. It's not.
Well,
shaking
it's changing directions. Here's a little experiment you can do. Get in a car on a perfectly smooth road, going 100 miles an hour. Fill a dinner plate up with water to the brim, and then have that car speed up, slow down, or take the slightest turn. And what happens to that water? Right? Maintain 100 miles an hour. The slightest turn, the slightest change in speed, and that water is coming right out of the plate. Okay, but we have to believe that that this happens. You know, with all of these motions going on.
But isn't it? I mean, aren't we talking about relative inertia here? I mean, if you and me are in the back of a semi truck, right, and it's traveling at 50 miles an hour straight down the road, we'll feel the acceleration to the point it gets to 50 miles an hour, sure. And then we'll feel the bouncing motion of the wheels. But relative to each other, we're both traveling 50 miles an hour.
Understood.
So if I throw you a ball across the length of that and you catch it, it's 50 miles an hour plus the velocity that I applied.
Yeah.
So is it a non-inertial frame of reference or an inertial frame?
So let's just put that in relative to the Earth. The Earth does not have a box truck container around it. So remove the container from the box truck, speed it up from 50 miles an hour to 1,000 miles per hour, right. And then go down a hill faster than a free-falling skydiver, because that's the speed that you're dropping. Okay? At 1,000 miles an hour, you're dropping over a mile a minute. Over a mile a minute. Okay? So put it in a truck can't do that. Have an airplane, double the speed, take the outside of the airplane off, and have that pilot nosedive down a mile a minute. Okay? And then tell me how your catch ball and your cup of water is doing. Okay? Because we are in the heliocentric model in an open system. An open system with high pressure next to a space vacuum. That's scientifically provably impossible.
There's also the pull or push of gravity. Nobody knows whether it's pull or push at this point. Nobody even knows what gravity is.
Let's talk about that.
You ever want to stop a scientist, ask them to define gravity in 25 words or less?
They don't know. We're on the same page there. So let's talk about gravity and holding the air down, right? So it's holding all of this air down. Right. But if I got a bottle and I had sucked all the air out of it and got the top on it, so I have a low pressure or vacuum bottle, and I turn it upside down, and at any altitude, I don't care where I'm at, ground level, in an airplane, in a balloon, and I open up that cap, what's going to happen? The air is going to go right up into it. How come gravity didn't hold that air down? In your world where gravity holds air down, I could have a shoebox, and then I could suck all the air out of the room from below the shoebox, and the air in the shoebox will stay in the shoebox because of gravity. That doesn't happen. You're telling a story that you have zero scientific proof of.
Okay, so neither one of us knows what gravity is. Neither one of us knows whether it's a push or a pull.
I have an idea what gravity is.
Well, it's not a graviton, I know that. It's a wave. But the other thing, too, is the spin of the Earth itself.
That's never been detected. That's just a theory that
it creates an inner push force. Like when you're in a...
That's untrue. When you spin something, it's putting an outward force.
Okay, so there's a counteracting force.
It's putting an outward force.
Okay.
All right? But here the thing is, and by the way, I was you. don't get upset
No, it's
because
fine.
your entire world
It's
is going
fine.
to
You might be
crumble.
right. This is fascinating. Don't worry
your
about
entire
Don't
world
worry
is
about
going
my
to crumble today.
My
Okay, it's
ego
going
will
to
survive.
crumble, and you're going to be so much happier when you see the truth of this world.
Right.
And you might be happy
Okay.
now, but you're going to be happier, guaranteed. Okay. So gravity is a theory that's 95, 96% wrong because they say, well, you have to have dark matter and dark energy that no one's ever seen or measured, but we need it because without it, gravity doesn't work. So they made up something to make their stupid equation of gravity work.
You want to hear about what idiocy dark matter is? Read this book by me, The Choice by Mike Bara.
Well, that's the one that's gravity.
To explain what Flat Earth Dave is talking about here is the fact that the scientists, the mainstream scientists, think that it's gravity that holds everything together, and that mass is what creates gravity. There is a connection between mass and gravity. We do know that does work. We don't know exactly what gravity is. The problem was when they looked around at all the stars and the planets in the galaxy, there wasn't enough stuff. There wasn't enough solid stuff to hold galaxies and solar systems together. There wasn't enough mass. So they said, oh, it must really be out there because there's no way our theory could be wrong. It's just invisible. It's just undetectable, which is
to Flat Earth.
Complete nonsense. Now, however, what I do talk about also in this book, Dave, and I'll have to send you a copy of this book because I want to see what you say about it, is the fact that there is a unrecognized fifth force of physics. There is the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, what is it, gravity and magnetism. Those are the four. The fifth force is dynamic torsion, which does account for how you hold everything together. But we do agree gravity cannot account for it, and the dark matter theory is nonsense. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so we agree on that. They also say that the only real forces here are electricity and magnetism, which are brother and sister. The electrostatic force is I forget the number. It's like 10 to the 20th power or some ridiculous number stronger than they say gravity is. So how would anyone ever isolate? Well, it's gravity that brought it down, not an electrostatic force. All right. Mm-hmm. Let's look at how we say the system works. The sun and the moon are within the Earth system. They're the anode and cathode of a free energy battery system. The salt water carries the current. The land is a salt bridge, and it creates a giant energy system. We're in a giant battery. So how can we test this? Well, here we go. We got helium balloons tied to a wire, and there's this little button on the end of it, and it's neutrally buoyant right now. And that wire is going to a Van de Graaff generator where we're going to increase a positive charge. Now, the Earth has a testable, measurable negative charge to it. When we add a positive charge to this, boom, it gets heavier. And when we discharge it, it goes up. The Earth isn't moving at all. It has a negative charge. The sky and the atmosphere is positively charged. And when we add a strong, and then if you look at all of the weights of things, all of the elements, the stronger positive charge they have, the heavier they are, okay? Which fits in perfectly with this. So this is showing right here that we can test it, but what about the opposite? What if we did something with a negative charge? Well, negative charge, it goes up. Now, this is going up into the positively charged atmosphere, but the wire is still keeping a negative charge in it, and it's going away. So is it gravity that's never been proven, or is it the electrostatic force that we're talking about that we're actually defying using electrostatics?
That's actually really interesting because, again, in the book, I talk about, and another book called Hidden Agenda, which is right over my shoulder, I talk about the experiments of T. Townsend Brown. Do you know who he is?
Yep.
Who basically took a disc-shaped object and electrified the shit out of it and got the ions, I guess, to
MIT just did it with this airplane
to go to opposite poles, and it would shoot off in the direction of the positively charged particles, ions, whatever the hell they are.
We live in an electric system.
Completely negated the effect of gravity.
Because gravity doesn't exist.
And he presented, it seems something exists. But anyway, go ahead, Dave. All right.
So you're using electromagnetism, electrostatics to defy electrostatics, not gravity. Gravity's made up, right? Buoyancy and density sort everything else out. The Earth isn't moving. It's got a negative charge to it. You add a negative charge to something, it goes up away from the Earth, right? MIT just made an airplane with no moving parts. It's using this ionic wind, okay? This is free energy. This is the secret space program. This is the propulsion stuff that they're using to explore our extended world across the Earth plane, not the planet. Planet is where we live in the plane. All right,
Okay.
we'll get into that. So there's my story on gravity. It makes sense. It's scientifically testable. And you agree, the whole theory of gravity, they've changed it from Newtonian gravity to Einsteinian gravity now. They're saying, well, it's not mass tracking mass, it's the bending of
Right.
time. That's a
Right.
cool
But
story.
the fact that I question the current theories of gravity, and even the fact that gravity is a constant, and other things in physics, doesn't mean I agree the Earth is flat yet. So we're still working on that.
Okay, listen.
All right.
Here's the other thing. Belief is the enemy of knowing. Belief is easy. It's a lazy man's thing. You believe, I never told you where I live. I live in Connecticut. You believe I live in Connecticut now, okay? But you don't know it, right? Knowing would take time. You'd have to go online, maybe go on Facebook, find my friends. Oh, they're all here. Yeah, he must live there. Oh, here's this high school. Yeah, okay. Now I know it, right? But belief is easy. People are lazy. You want to make millions of dollars, make a product that makes people lazier. Everyone will buy it, okay?
Yeah.
Everyone loves being lazy because lazy is, do what you have to do and then lay down and watch a movie, drink some beer.
Yeah,
watch
nobody
sports.
knew they needed the Red Zone channel for watching NFL football games until
Right.
it came on. It's like, why do I have to go back and forth between games? I just sit here and watch every play.
Anything that'll make you like DoorDash. Hey, deliver fast food to you so you don't have to get off your fat ass and go out and buy that crap.
I remember when it used to be no big deal to get up and drive to Denny's for breakfast in the morning. Now it's like, oh my God, drive somewhere?
Right.
All right, go ahead.
Plug in my power here. Sorry about that. All right. Battery almost died. Okay. So let's just talk about what the Earth is. All right. What the Earth is. Just so, because at the beginning I showed you the disk floating in space. I showed you the heliocentric model that you have to believe in, which is crazy. And what the Earth is. So they tell us that Antarctica is a continent at the bottom of the ball. Okay. Right. But when you look for photos of Antarctica from space. Now, by the way, there's no photos of Earth from space. The satellite stuff, it's all done from drones, airplanes, and balloons. None of it's coming from satellites in infinite space. But we'll get into that. Because go to Google Earth and zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. And when you get up just high enough, it goes from real photos to a cartoon. Okay?
Yep.
And so these photos from falling satellites, it's just crazy. All right, so getting back to Antarctica.
There are photos of Earth from the Apollo and other lunar programs did take photos.
We'll go into that next.
All right.
Okay. Okay. We'll go into that next. Okay. So they also tell us that Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. When you get to the shoreline of Antarctica, it's not just a shoreline. It's high above you. It's like 200 feet in the air. Okay. It's the highest land on Earth. Now, what is a pond? Right? A pond, a lake, is a body of water that lays flat and when at rest. And the shoreline of the lake holds it in. And the shoreline is consistently higher than the water. Because if it was lower, the water would flow away. Right? You're with me. Tell me you're with me.
Yeah, I'm here.
So the land is higher than the water. That's what holds it in. Large bodies of water at rest need a container. They need lateral pressure to hold them. Otherwise, they'll flow away. Right? So how is the world set up? We think the world is set up like this, and there is proof of this, okay? This is our pond, our world pond. All of the continents and islands are surrounded by water, but all of the water is surrounded by the highest land on Earth. It's Antarctica. There's no photos of Antarctica from elevation, I'll say. There's no photos except for the shoreline. Like here, there's a base over here. I believe there's a base over here, right along the shoreline.
Yeah, I think that's basically true. Although what I will also say is polar orbits are rare. Most orbits are around the circumference of the Earth at various latitudes. Polar orbits are rare, and I don't think that too many of them are. They might be weather satellites, but I would assume a weather satellite is taking a picture of the South Pole from space.
You assume.
But
you know how to spell assume, right? You know
right.
how to spell assume. Okay,
yes.
So we have photos of Earth, we have polar orbit satellites, and what else we're talking about? Maybe you can keep notes. All right.
Well, yeah. I mean, no, it's just that that it's a not very often. Polar orbits are not used very often because there's not much at the top and the bottom. Plus, we're launching from basically equatorial regions, so the orbits are going to typically be equatorial or around that zone.
We have a lot to cover, my friend. A lot.
All right, buddy. Keep going.
So just imagine the world like this. You know, obeying the laws of physics. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat. Well, there is no measurable curvature. We can see too far. We'll get into that. Okay. And this is the shoreline of our world. So let's talk about, I'm going to jump over to circumnavigation. Okay. Because circumnavigation is just kind of what you were just talking about. And here we go. So this is the way the world is set up. At the center of our lake is a magnetic mountain. I have a magnet here. Okay. And my compass needle is pointing towards it. It's always pointing north. So I'm trying to push this compass west. And west is a circle. West is a circle. Okay? Now, this doesn't prove the Earth is flat because it's a circle on the globe also. If I was a mile from the North Pole and I went west, 6.28 miles later, I'd be right back to where I started from. Now I'm pushing it east. I have to keep turning. Otherwise, I'm not heading east. Now I'm going to try to dead reckon west. And watch. That the stick is pointing west as from where I am right now. And as soon as I start moving, if I don't start turning, I'm heading south. South is every direction away from the center. Every direction away from the center is south. This is Antarctica. Okay? Now, what if I went south? What happens if I go south? Now, on a ball, I should just go south and pop up right on the other side. But on a flat Earth, that's impossible. So, this could be good proof that the Earth isn't flat. If anybody could go south and then magically show up over here, or go south from Santiago and end up in Australia. No one's ever done it. Now I'm heading north, and as soon as I pass north, I'm heading south. The compass just did a 180, and I'm going south. Every direction is south. Now, when you say polar orbits, okay, when you say polar orbits, well, there's two poles in the heliocentric model. You have the South Pole and the North Pole, right? But in the flat Earth, there's only the North Pole. Okay, trying to find a quick map for you. Here, I'll just pull up this one that has Japan on it. All right, so here's our North Pole.
Okay,
I can go from New York to Japan straight over. Go over just shoot over here. Go over Alaska. Bam, Japan. I can also go east. And I just follow this around, just going 90 degrees east, and I'm in Japan. And I can also go west, and I'm in Japan. But what I can't do is go south and then pop up over here. No one's ever done it, okay? And people say, well, how did the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor? Here's Japan. Here's Pearl Harbor. They just flew over. So when you say a polar orbit, no one's allowed to go over the North Pole. I don't think you're allowed within 1,000 miles or even maybe more. But you can go close enough
because of the hole in the North Pole.
Well, they say that there's magnetic forces and the airplanes can't travel. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. You know, they should let airships go over there, but they've gotten rid of airships because they don't want people traveling where they can travel extended distances, right? So they demonized hydrogen with the Hindenburg, which is a false flag. And then NASA owns all of the hydrogen companies in the world, and there's always a hydrogen shortage, except for NASA, who uses more hydrogen than anyone else in the world. I'm not hydrogen.
Dave, if I'm starting in Seattle, Washington, where I am now, and
Washington, over here,
I start going north, and I start going north, and I just keep going north.
North China. You're in China now.
It's going to work. Isn't that going to work the same? Whether it's a globe or a disc, right?
100%. So the north, everything so the equator is right about here. Everything inside the equator is the northern part of the world, and everything outside of the equator is the southern part of our world, right? Everything. So airplane routes. Let's just jump to airplane routes because this might help you see. Airplane routes in the north are pretty much the same. So let me ask you a question. Think about this. So here we are, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. If you're going from any two locations on the northern hemisphere, your pilot, any combination of any two locations, would you ever need to go below the equator? From
Um,
one northern location to another northern location, is there any circumstance where you would need to go to another location?
well, I mean, I'm going to fly to Brazil.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. That's in the southern. That's in the southern. I'm
Oh,
saying
okay.
any
Okay.
two northern locations, origin and destination, are both in the north, both above the equator. Would
Okay.
you ever need to go below the equator?
I don't think so. No.
You're correct, and nobody ever does. Okay, but in the south, going from any two southern locations, it would need to be the same, right? You would never
Hmm.
go above the equator to go from a southern location to another southern location, correct?
I would. Yes.
On
I
a
would assume so.
globe, you shouldn't
Now,
you shouldn't
so,
have to. Let me finish the point before you bring up another one, right? So you're right about the north, and no flight ever does. That's good, but that doesn't prove anything because it's the same on a flat Earth and the same on a globe Earth, right? So here we go. So from any two locations, bam, north, north, north. I could just zigzag all I want inside here and never have to go below the equator. But if I wanted to go from Brazil down here, let's say Brazil, and I wanted to go to Australia, well, that's different. On a globe, I should be able to just cut across the bottom. But let's look at a couple plane routes. Okay, this one I have to go all the way up to Singal above the equator and all the way down. But when you look at it on a flat Earth map, look where Singal is.
it's a straight line.
It's a
Yeah.
straight line. Let's look at another one. This is important. Okay, so here's one. We go all the way up to Los Angeles. Why didn't we just cut across here? Because that's where everyone on the plane wanted to go. Well, look, bam, bam. It's
Okay.
pretty
Okay.
much a straight line, right? So
Fair
why
enough.
is it? So the question I have to you is why only does this happen with long distance southern flights and never with long distance northern flights?
Well, the answer is it doesn't, Dave. I mean, I worked in aerospace, right? I worked for Boeing and designed airplanes for many many years before I went into conspiracies and UFOs and stuff. And aircraft courses are generally based on they're generally parabolic to take advantage of the curvature of the Earth, assuming it exists, and I'm not saying it does. And they're designed, for instance, when you go from Taiwan, let's say, to Los Angeles, you're going to fly up over Japan near the Aleutians, across the Pacific, and land in LAX because that's a more efficient route
It's
for
also
a
a straight
globe.
line. It's also a straight line on a flat
Okay.
Earth map.
Also, because with long distance hauls like this, the key thing is waypoints. So courses are set based on the number of waypoints. I also want to point out to you that I did go and I looked at, China Airlines, and they go straight across to Honolulu, and I looked at, for instance, Hawaii overseas routes,
You're
and
showing you're
they stay
showing
above the equator on in many cases, and they cross the equator in others. And Qantas flies directly from Sydney to Argentina and to Chile,
yeah,
Santiago, Chile. They fly
they
straight
fly
across
from
nonstop, and they never go above the equator. So that's
that's not true.
not exactly true.
So Qantas has a direct flight from Santiago to Australia, and
Right.
there's two routes that they take, which I'll show you in a second. But all the routes that you were just talking about make perfect sense on a flat Earth map. So let's go to the Qantas flight.
But again, Dave, on the concept of waypoints, which you want to do, these are 12-hour flights across the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is vast. People don't even conceive, assuming the Earth is a globe, okay? People don't conceive how vast it is. You can literally approach the Earth if you were in space. If space was a thing, you could approach the Earth from the middle of the Pacific Ocean and basically not see land, almost not be able to see land. It's so vast. So what they want to do ideally is have waypoints in case the plane gets into trouble somewhere along the flight route. You really don't want a flight route longer than 6 hours. If you have to, you'll do so.
So let me show you a couple things before we go on. And I used to have the same arguments as you, but the routes that they take have less waypoints sometimes, such as this one. This span is massive. This is shorter. They go all the way up here and then all the way down, when in reality, it's a straight line.
No, no, I'm
Okay.
fine. There's also financial considerations involved here too, which is
Yeah, making
in
the
terms
flight
of
twice as long and twice as much fuel. That's a
no,
financial consideration.
it is a financial consideration, but then it's also what is the traffic light? I mean, again, airlines, and I'm not trying to shoot you down completely here. I'm just saying airlines will make decisions on flight routes based on how many tickets they can sell. And there's maybe there's a lot more people going from Sydney to Los Angeles and from Los Angeles to Lima than there is people going directly from Sydney to Lima. That would be
So
why they would do this.
I'm going to show you
a segmented route.
Right.
It is a consideration, is all I'm saying.
It's a consideration that has, once you look into it, you realize it's silly. All right.
Okay.
So here's sometimes there's an emergency. Someone's having a baby. Someone had a heart attack. Got to land the plane quickly. Right. So here's an emergency on this flight from New York to Hawaii, and they were right about here, and they're like, "Oh my God, we got to land." So they went 1,000 miles out of the way to Seattle, and somehow they got there in 15 minutes. Okay. Somehow they got there in 15 minutes. When you look at where Seattle is, it's right there. They landed in Seattle. So that, and again, I'm just showing you a meme. Don't believe this. I'm going to show you all the where to
right.
go.
I don't know the absolute facts of that.
I'm going to show you the absolute facts, and not on this show. I'm going to give you the resources to go look yourself, and we made it easy for you, so you should be millionaires. Okay. Again, this one, emergency, Moscow, 1,500 miles out of the way, I think. Okay. Why did they go there, and how did they get there so fast? The answer is Moscow is right on the line, right? And then if you talk about your great circle route.
Again, Dave, wait a minute. Are you sure they weren't on a parabolic course? Because
here's your parabolic course.
If you go back, if you go back to your previous map, one of the previous maps you had showing the Earth from above, where it's way back there. Here, let me maximize you. Okay, when I went, for instance, to Manchester, England, I went from Seattle, Washington, which you can find on the map there, over to England, and we went up over Canada, across the Arctic Circle, over Greenland and near Iceland,
and it's a straight line. It's a straight line on a flat Earth map. Airplanes fly straight and level over an Earth plane. Remember, we're talking about the spin of the Earth. Let's say you took off. You wanted to go from northern Alaska. Well, at northern Alaska, the Earth is spinning at like 200 miles an hour, maybe 300 miles an hour.
Okay.
And you want to fly to Ecuador. Okay, cool. You're going to fly to Ecuador. The plane speeds up to 500 miles an hour. Okay. You got your inertia spin of the Earth, and that somehow the plane is matching that. And you get to Ecuador, but that north-south runway is moving sideways at 1,000 miles an hour. How are you going to land on that? Okay. And because it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour. Where'd you get that extra inertia from? And your only answer is gravity. Gravity speeds up the plane sideways as I'm going. But it doesn't do it to balloons. It doesn't do it to, it's absolutely insanity to believe that, right? But it's something that you'll hold on to because nobody wants to let go of their ball. We've been indoctrinated to believe this incredible system and make up excuses. But these emergency landings, let's look at one more, okay?
Okay.
This one. They landed in L.A., right? Well, L.A.'s right here. Did I have that right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that, yeah.
But this is the route that they said they were going on. This is the Great Circle Route. The whole Great Circle Route that they show you, it's nonsense. Get a globe and pull a string from one location to the other. There's your circle route. They use that to confuse you. But again, don't believe me. My good buddy Eddie put it all together in this book called 16 Emergency Landings That Prove Flat Earth. The flights, the routes that they said they were taking, the times, the distances, all of the news media on it, all of it's documented in this book. It's free online. It's a PDF. Or you can buy the book from lulu.com if you want the book. It's amazing. I love it. It's a coffee table book.
I will have to pick that one up.
Yeah. So
I'll have to pick that one up, Dave.
Lulu.com. Lulu.com. 16 emergency landings.
And I will tell you this. This is the one part of the flat Earth theory that I'm most interested in. Is this stuff. But again, they will tell you you're on a parabolic course. And the reason for that is waypoints around Japan and the Aleutians and Alaska on the way to LA. And it it makes sense from an aviation perspective and safety perspective. So
Well,
I'm just going to say that.
that- and that-
I really do. I know you want to maybe move on, but I really do want to find out.
Well, let me comment and then we'll move on. My comment is they're making up a crazy great circle route parabolic journey when in fact it's a straight line on a flat Earth, non-moving level Earth, right?
But on a globe,
it makes no sense on a globe.
Well, I would.
Let me ask you a question. So the Earth.
Wait a minute. You got two continents, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay. Now look, I know you're better at this than I am, so I'm going to acknowledge that you're better at this than I am, and you're going to know what you're talking about better than I do. You got two continents. Mike is here in Seattle, Washington. He wants to go to Manchester, well, which is here. Okay, on a globe, they are not flat like this. They are like this to each other. So the shortest course would be up over like that. Would it not?
Oh, wait. Seattle, Washington to where? Manchester, England?
To Manchester, England.
Now look.
That's where and so if the Earth is flat, it might be like this. But on a globe, it's going to be like this, and the shortest course is going to be exactly the course that I took.
Look, the shortest course is like this, a straight line. And on your world, it's a parabolic curved course, which isn't the shortest distance. Get a map, draw the parabolic course that they show you that it takes, and then draw a line, a straight line, and see which one is shorter. Well, but on a flat Earth, hits all the waypoints. Look, it goes across, goes over Greenland, boom, boom. It's a straight line.
Okay.
So we have your story, parabolic, waypoints, excuses, and mine, straight line, shortest distance between 2 points.
I will concede that this part of the theory is not disproven at this point.
Okay, so, great. And by the way, if you can come up with one globe proof, you win 3 Bitcoins, which are decreasing in value every day.
Yes, yeah, but it's still 60 grand, right?
Okay, yeah. All right. So when you talk about photos of Earth, my question to you is, what would be harder to paint, to reproduce? To reproduce this, painting it, or to reproduce this scene, painting it? Which would be harder to paint?
Well, which would be harder to paint would be the photograph.
Of course. But this isn't a photograph. This is a painting. Okay, this is called a photorealistic painting. Looks pretty good. Look at the reflections. This is really impressive. Okay? This is a fucking cartoon. All right? This is a cartoon. And you know why I know it's a cartoon? Because NASA admits it's a cartoon. Yeah. NASA says it's made by Robert Simon, right? And he painted it in Photoshop, right? This is also a painting. So to say that they can't fake pictures of space is absolutely ridiculous. This is the one that was on everyone's iPhone. And if you look carefully, the clouds are stepped and repeated. Again, people are lazy.
They are. And the thing is though, is this. The average altitude for low Earth orbit satellites is 250 miles. The highest altitude is about 23,000 miles, 22,500 or something like that. At those altitudes, it's not that easy to get the entire Earth disk below you in a field of view. So you're going to take a high-resolution picture, which is a high-resolution picture is going to be zoomed up, and you're going to patch them together to make a composite image, which is what I believe they're saying this is. Is that correct? So, I mean, again, I will admit it takes a whole bunch of little pictures to make a big picture sometimes, depending on how far away your camera is and the resolution and zoom of the camera you're using.
They tell us this is what happens, right? That the satellite's going around, and each time it comes around, it takes another strip, but then there's a little piece that's missing, and they have to kind of Photoshop it in. Yeah. But if you look at these clouds, look at this cloud here. Well, this satellite pass was 90 minutes later when this one happened, which was 90 minutes later. How come the clouds don't change over 90 minutes? Okay? This is nonsense. This is a story that has no relative no truth to it. If you look for satellites in space, you'll see none because there are no satellites in space. Satellites are on balloons. NASA has tens of thousands of these things on balloons, and they can control where they go with electrostatics. They can make it go up. They can make it go down into different wind currents and keep it wherever they want it. tens of thousands of these things are in the sky at all times. Now, I'm guessing that you would say, well, I've seen satellites, right?
Yeah.
Could you really see a satellite? Let me ask you a question. So,
well, only if the sunlight
is reflecting off
of the setting Earth is reflecting off of it.
Let's talk about that just for a moment. A 747 is gigantic. If you ever stood next to one, you feel so small. You don't realize how big they are until you really stand next to one.
I've been in the factory. Yep.
Yeah. So can you see the engine right here? You can see it.
Sure.
Not bad. Right.
Sure.
This is a 747 at cruising altitude. Can you see the engine?
No.
All right. The engine is bigger than most satellites. Right. Now you have to believe that you can see this engine if I made it 50 times higher, which is the lowest satellite that there is, that they claim to be. 50 times higher. You think that your eye can see it? It's called Rayleigh's criteria, which is the angular resolution limit of your eye. Anything smaller than 0.02 degrees in arc width, right? So 180 is from side to side. Bring that down to 0.02 degrees. Your eye can't see it. If I had a penny, you can see it. If I moved it out, a couple hundred yards away, you couldn't see it because its angular size is too small. The angular size of this engine is too small to see, and you believe that you can see it 50 times higher, 200 times higher. That's absolute and total faith in a religion that doesn't exist.
Okay.
All right. So, what are satellites? Where does our communications come from? Well, undersea cables, undersea fiber optics that also prove the Earth is flat because there's nothing from Santiago over to Australia, which are both at the bottom of the ball. Bam, just run it across. But instead, the cable goes all the way up, all the way across. But you look at that in a flat Earth map, it's a straight line.
Well, I will say this about that space in there. That is some of the deepest trenches in the ocean floor. So they can actually run the cable because, again, they have to get underwater to run the cable and put it on the ocean floor. They're going to follow a route for the cables that is more shallow. Some of those trenches are so deep, you literally couldn't get workers or equipment down there without it getting crushed by the pressure.
Cool argument, but there are no cables. I'll give it to you. Sure. But there are no cables. There are no cruise ships that go from Brazil to Australia. There's no cruise ships that run these routes because they all have to go up to the north, right, to get there.
Well, to pick up passengers, and you're not going to launch a cruise ship unless you have a full ship.
Yeah, but there's no shipping traffic. There's nothing. There's no plane routes. There's nothing that take those shorter routes across the southern hemisphere. Again, always happens in the north, never happens in the south. Okay, so you have to believe that. Remember my corkscrewing, spiraling, well, your corkscrewing, spiraling, rocketing Earth at the beginning, right? You have to believe that even though we're spinning, orbiting, speeding up and slowing down, speeding up and slowing down, circling around the sun, chasing it, traveling 4.5 billion miles a year, that a geostationary satellite can mimic all of those motions and stay right above the Earth due to gravity holding it on. Okay, that's a religion. That's a religion.
They do use reaction control thrusters to maintain attitude.
Show me one.
Position.
Show me one. Show me one. Show me one when they lift up the space station. Do you believe in the space station? Let's just start there.
Yeah, I think it's up there.
Oh,
yes.
Boy. Now, if I showed you NASA
I know a guy who was on it, so he.
Well, you know a guy that says he was on it. Do you think that men could lie? Just a simple question.
Look, Leland Melvin, who is my co-star on Truth Behind the Moon Landing, where I played the crazy conspiracy guy. I played Flat Earth Dave, even though I knew we really did go to the moon because there really is a moon. But that's a separate argument. He's not very smart, but he's not that dishonest. He will not hear things he doesn't want to hear. He will not see things he doesn't want to see. But he's not lying when he says he got into a space shuttle and went up to the space station and spent weeks there. I don't believe he's lying. No, I don't. And that's a little closer relationship than the average person. It's not I know the guy. I spent weeks with him filming this show.
Listen,
and I have some criticisms of him, but that's not one of them.
Yeah, well, people lie for all different types of reasons. People are mind controlled. Because
I would not disagree that he might be mind controlled to some extent.
Absolutely. So there are people
that he's positive that he flew up to the space station.
Well,
zero gravity.
I'd like to think that people aren't all liars, and I believe that there are some people that believe they're in space, that went to space, and it could be all be hypnotic mind control,
Sure.
and that's easily done. But there's too many coincidences. You know, we got a Buzz Aldrin in Hawaii with the same mountain that's on the moon. Weird, okay? Weird. That's just weird coincidence, right? But when you look at you know, you talked about the shot of the Earth from the moon. Well, that Earth was on the horizon. Well, here are all of the
Well,
landing spots.
Dave, just real quickly, let's go back to that last one. The shot that you're showing, the previous shot of the moon, that's not Buzz Aldrin. That's from Apollo 17, and that mountain is called the South Massif, which is French for mountain. So if you go back one slide, it's not Buzz Aldrin. Just to let you know, it's not Buzz Aldrin. I don't think that's relevant to the argument necessarily, but I'm letting you know.
Whoever it is, I thought I'll reconfirm that.
There were no mountains like that around the Apollo 11 landing site. So
yeah, well, that's a shot.
Just so you know, for future reference.
The shot that they show of the mountain on the moon matches that mountain at the site where they were doing testing. That's all.
It does look interesting, but it's also possible, and I don't know this to be a fact. It's something we might be able to find in the archives. It might be that was a training ground because of its similarity to a lunar, what they thought was going to be a lunar landscape. That's just throwing it out there as a possibility.
I wish we were on Zoom so I could put on my cool Story Bro glasses.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
All right.
Sorry, not to interrupt you. I just wanted to correct that.
No, it's all right.
Thing. And it's not. It doesn't necessarily. It doesn't kill your argument or anything. I'm just saying, just so for accuracy's sake. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So these are all the landing sites. Well, this is the full moon from Earth. Where's the Earth? The Earth is here. The Earth is out here. Okay. So there's no way you would have to look up to see the Earth, not across. And the images they show us from the moon show the moon over here. Well, the moon would be up there because the same size, right? They can't get their shit together, right? There's no way that the moon could be over there from these landing sites. It would have to be above you.
Well, but the because of the motion though of the two planets in the theory, and it's really they're really two planets, it's the Earth and the moon, but let's call them planets. Because of the motion, they rise and set at your various positions on the planet, just like on Earth, you see the moon rise and it rotates, you know, the face of it spins like this as it flows through the day and then sets. And the same thing happens on the lunar surface. As I know, because
on the lunar surface, we're not rotating relative to the Earth.
Yes, we are, but not as fast. It takes 27 days as opposed to
correct. And so when you're on the moon, if you point toward the Earth, it's always going to point toward the Earth. You don't have to follow it because we're turning at the exact same orbital speed that we're having. So the moon is always in the same spot in the sky on the moon. I mean, the Earth is always on the same spot in the sky when you're on the moon. You have to think about these things. They didn't teach you how to think about this in school. They told you stuff. They told you to believe it because a guy in a bow tie who lies told you it. Okay.
Yeah.
But so the Earth is not a theory. It's not Flat Earth Crazy Dave. It's according to the globe model. The moon is above these landing spots, not on the side. Go at noon, take a picture of the sun and show me the horizon of the Earth in that same picture. You can't do it.
So you're saying, and this is what I'm going to look into. You're saying that the moon or the Earth should be directly above, like high noon, the surface of the moon.
Bingo.
In the photographs. All right. I'll write that one down and we'll dig into that.
Okay. And then when you look at these guys, this nonsense, slow motion, why are they going in slow motion? They're on the moon. Should be moving faster. Okay. Right. So look at these guys. They're hanging from wires. I believe that they're actually hanging from wires connected to balloons that are like 20 feet wide just to make them light enough. They're hanging and jumping up and down on a wire. Now, this guy dropped his hammer and he's trying to pick it up, but he can't get enough momentum. The balloon is holding him up. So he keeps trying to jump and get down and get it, but he can't. Okay. This is.
Well, okay, Dave, I'll accept that. That's what you want to think.
Right, so
I don't
answer this one.
Any evidence of that.
So
that's how I would expect people. That's how I would expect an astronaut to behave in a pressurized suit in 1/6 gravity. So.
All right. So,
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
So we got 3 astronauts that went there. 2 of them went on the lander. 1 of them stayed in orbit alone. Right? This guy alone. Right? So he's doing his little magic trip. Who's panning the camera up? It's following the book. Oh, look, the magical book's floating. Who's panning the camera up?
Well, but Dave, you don't know that was taken when the other 2 guys were down on the lunar
Yes,
surface.
it was.
I mean,
this is from NASA's website, and this is from their documentary that's talking about him in the space capsule alone while the other guys were on the Earth doing his work. Okay, this is from NASA.
But again, this is put together by the PR staff. Okay, back in the 60s, they had PR staffs who were not scientists and who probably weren't worried about that. They were simply trying to illustrate, what's a great clip that we can use to talk about the weightlessness of the guy. So,
they said the exact quote was whatever his name was, so and so astronaut doing his work alone, on the orbiter, while the other 2. So why are they showing us nonsense?
That doesn't mean that's where that footage came from. We'd have to trace back the origins of that footage, and there are some sites, the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal, among others, where we might be able to track that down. That's specific. Now, I will give you this. If we can track down that footage specifically was shot when he was supposed to be up there alone, that's a little weird. But I don't think we can prove that. I will acknowledge that would be really weird. So go ahead.
No, you know what? And this doesn't prove anything. It's just something I'd like to see. This can withstand temperature swings of 400 degrees, or 500 degrees, 250 plus in the sun, negative 250 below. And it's air conditioning and heating, and it's airtight, right? And how come they don't blow up like the Michelin Man because they're in no pressure with a pressurized suit? They're in a pressurized suit. How come no astronaut has ever gone in the Sandusky vacuum chamber, which doesn't even make a full vacuum, in a spacesuit? How come no one has ever done it? Because they can't. They tried it once in a simulator, and before they got all the air out, the astronaut passed out. He said the saliva in his mouth started boiling. He passed out, almost died, right? Never once have they done the physics, right? You take a bottle, next time you get an airplane, get an empty Poland Spring bottle, screw the cap on tight, and then when at altitude, you'll see that it's expanded. How come they don't expand in their snowboarding suits?
Now, you just proved that you're on the East Coast at the very least, if not Connecticut, because you said Poland Spring, 2 words you don't hear on the West Coast. Okay, so
it's cheap, thin bottles. That's all I was saying.
I will check. I have a friend named Ken Johnston Jr. who worked on Apollo and taught the astronauts to fly the lunar module and all the instrumentation, and stayed on NASA and worked on the shuttle. And I am pretty positive he's got pictures of himself in the vacuum chamber in a spacesuit.
No one's ever done it.
I will ask him.
You're mistaken.
I'm not saying I can prove anything. I will ask him.
You're mistaken. So this is the actual footage that they showed us of the Russians landing on the moon.
That's an animation.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'll take it. Pure animation, right? And that's all they ever show us.
Dave, I'm just going to tell you, this is not. This is my area of expertise, right here where we're getting to, and I'm not trying to shoot you down. I'm just gonna. There's just things I know about it that you may not know about it, and just you may have to modify your arguments in some of these areas. That's all I'm trying to do is just be clear. But that's a TV animation of the Russian mission, probably.
What about
America.
this? Is this a photo?
That I think is a legitimate photo of the lunar module. Yes.
How come the Earth isn't bigger?
Well, because it's far away.
Well, look at the moon compared to the Earth, and the Earth compared to the moon. They shouldn't be.
Well, the moon is they're in orbit over the moon at this point.
So who took this photo?
The guy in the command module.
In the command module.
This is where. Sorry, whoops, didn't mean to do that. This is where the lunar module. I think this is Apollo 11 photograph. Has risen up from the surface and is returning to dock with the command module for all 3 astronauts to go home in the command module.
And so they happen to be going around the backside so they can see the Earth on the horizon. I'll give it to you. It just looks like a really crazy
probably
photo.
What I think's going on there. Go ahead. All right. Go ahead.
Is this an airtight zipper?
I would hope so, because I wouldn't want that to blow out.
I'd like to see an airtight zipper. This is.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, good. So this is the artist, the next moon mission. Look at their boots. Look at these are just rubber boots. They're laughing at us, and they want people to believe that we're really going to space.
Well,
right?
okay, but wait a minute on this one, because again, this is an Apollo thing, right?
Right.
Um, on the Apollo missions, they had the white part of the suit. They had little footies that went all down, solid rubber footies that they wore. That was a sealed, pressurized suit. The gray boots for moonwalking were like galoshes that were kept in the lunar module. Two pairs of them for the two astronauts that were basically strapped over the top of that. So that's an argument I've heard from the not from the flat Earth folks, but from the we faked the moon landing folks before. So that's just a misunderstanding. All right, go ahead.
Explain how the camera pans and how do we got the film back to Earth after they left.
Okay, because it was a TV broadcast.
So we're broadcasting TV. This is
Yeah,
live broadcast.
This is a live broadcast. I watched it. I remember I watched all the moon missions as a kid. I was 9, 10, 11 years old.
Me too.
And what they did is that they had, first of all, the first time they did it, they had a camera and it didn't pan. That you just saw it take off on Apollo 15. So I think this is Apollo 17. What they did on this one is that they were controlling the camera, which they could do via radio signals from Earth, and they knew the countdown. And so what they did is they pre-programmed in, because of the 9-second light time delay for the radio signal, to wait. And so 9 seconds before the ignition, they told it to pan.
That is amazing story, man.
And they figured it all out with engineering. My dad was an engineer at Boeing. That's what they did on this. So I can explain that.
Amazing story.
Keep going. Sorry. I can explain some of these, maybe not all of them, but that's what they did. And then it goes downrange and disappears out of sight. So anyway.
Do you believe that there's two grown men wearing diapers in here with paper thin walls, and they can maneuver it with these jerky motions like this, and their body motion doesn't, if they move, doesn't send the thing spiraling? Like if I'm on my boat with water holding me in place, if I move across the boat's going to go the opposite direction, right? These guys are in space docking with the other module, and that thing is just staying. I mean, it doesn't move, right?
Yeah, well, okay. In that case, the footage you just showed, that is accelerated footage. Okay, the actual movements were very, very slow and took a long time.
That's sped up.
Very subtle. So that film is sped up because it would be so boring to. I mean, I remember, that was all 16 millimeter film, by the way. That was not on TV. We never saw that stuff. But
let me ask you another question. You talked about the photo this is the photo from NASA's website, and you got the moon here. So we took it from their website live on the air, and we brought it into Photoshop. We cranked up the levels, and we saw the bad Photoshopping job that they did because there's a box around the moon. Right. So we caught NASA faking an image of the Earth. What's your excuse there? I'm sure you have one.
I don't have an excuse. I wouldn't call it an excuse. I've seen another photo, and it's somewhere in my slideshow here, that is not an authentic photo. I think that one is an authentic photo. You have to understand that first of all, a lot of these images were modified for Life magazine, Look magazine. They were never intended for the internet. So it might be from a negative that was then printed out and then scanned. At some point, somebody scanned an image of this. It may be that it was done by the public relations department, that they taped a little Earth on there and then took another photograph of that to make a nice public relations shot. That's possible.
You are making up a lot of stories to protect your position.
But I will say this. I have found lots and lots of images on NASA websites that have the same frame number, that do not correspond at all to the actual photographic print that people like my friend Ken Johnston has.
Let's move forward.
They have absolutely altered the digital archive that's online, but not to fake the moon landings, but to hide what was really there.
All right, so let's go, because there's a couple of things that I want to get to before we go too long.
And also just because NASA has faked some stuff. I mean, I wrote a best-selling book about that one right there, Dark Mission, about all the things that NASA has lied about. That doesn't mean the Earth is flat. Just so we establish that argument.
Well, I agreed. Looking up in the air does not
But
improve the shape of the
I
Earth.
agree
But
with you. NASA lies. NASA lies. I
Okay.
agree with you. I just think we're arguing about what they lie about.
Well,
go ahead.
This is the Japanese filming the Earthrise.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
We can both agree that this is fake, right?
Doesn't look very authentic to me. No.
Right.
Looks like a composited Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in 1964, we built this mean machine, but in 1972, we built this piece of garbage that can separate an atmosphere from the vacuum of space, right? And if you zoom in on any high-res photo of the lander, you can see that it's made from paper mache, cardboard, duct tape, scotch tape, curtain rods, tinfoil.
No, it was very thin, flimsy, very thin.
So how is it holding the atmosphere? How's it holding the atmosphere from the outside?
The internal cabin chamber. There's an internal cabin chamber that is solid. What you're looking at there, that's just an instrumentation package area in the back for the maneuvering thrusters.
You're now making up stories.
Messed up. Wait a minute. It got messed up. You showed it the footage earlier. It got messed up on the launch when the exhaust from the ascent stage engine blasted it. This thing was very flimsy, and it had to be because of the fact that weight was such a huge consideration. I mean, think about it. If you've ever seen the Apollo 11 capsule that's been on display, you got this tiny little piece out of this massive Saturn V. It was all about getting weight out of these space.
So you're telling me that there's a capsule that's strong-walled inside of this.
Yeah, stronger. It's not strong-walled. As Buzz Aldrin said,
you're making up stories right now. You're making up stories. Because you're the first person to ever say that.
I've actually seen the test article. There's a museum where they have the Apollo 18 lunar module, which was never used. They have the real one there, and they have the test articles. And you can literally go up to them and on those panels you're talking about, and you can push on them and knock on them, and they'll flex like a.
They talked about dropping a wrench. They talked about while they're on there, they were worried about dropping something because it would go right through the walls. Okay, right. You're making up a story. So let's move on. Just another point. The astronauts that went to the moon all have stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Find that interesting. Doesn't prove anything. Let's just go to the space station for a moment, because if I could show you that they're faking being on the space station, maybe that'll help you understand that we're not in space. Okay. So here we got here's a shot for the space station. Here's the Dragon capsule. Right now they're going to change cameras. Now look at the Dragon capsule. It's sideways compared to the Earth curve. Watch. It's upright. The other camera's over here. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's sideways. They got their orientation screwed up. This was a live feed. This is live.
Right.
Okay. Why is it upright here and sideways here? There is no answer. You can try to make up an excuse, but there's no answer to why that happens. Right? Let me ask you another question. What is this?
Wait a minute, Dave. Unless, again, on first blush, it looks pretty good. But so here's the Dragon capsule. The Earth is really far behind it, and it looks like in the one that's here. But if you're looking at the other one, then show me that again. Yeah, it's because you're looking at a different horizon than the one. From the first picture.
See this?
That's my guess.
So look, here's this black mark right here.
Right. No, but I'm saying
here's the black mark right there. I'm telling you, we've done the analysis on it.
No, but the curvature. But in other words, the curvature that's over your shoulder right now is not the same curvature you're going to see from the other perspective. That's going to be to the left.
You're incorrect. The camera's over here. The second camera's over here.
Well,
okay.
It looks like it's
the second camera's over here.
Right.
And the Earth changes. You're making excuses. There is no excuse for this one.
Okay, all right. All right.
And then your excuse here is there's another door on the inside, and this floppy door is just for some other purpose, right?
That's like some sort of insulation.
Where's the outer door? Where's the door that Where's the door that closes that up?
Well, okay, that's an internal seal.
It's outside.
For where they dock.
Where's the door that closes
okay,
it?
okay. The door is inside that hole because what they do is they have that insulation blanket, which is basically what that is, that they pull down over this hatch, but the actual interior of the airlock is inside where we can't see it.
I'd love to see the schematics for that.
Right,
You know what's funny? The space station
okay,
is probably one of the greatest building accomplishments ever, and there's zero video of it ever being built. Zero photos and zero video, which when it would be the most videoed construction project of all time, because Houston would need to see what's going on, right?
okay, yeah. Well, they did farm out. They did farm out different modules to different countries, but there should be videos of them under design and construction. Absolutely should be.
Why does when this woman decides to do a flip, why does she rotate at her waist? Why doesn't she just float away? What's making her rotate? And then why is she losing her balance here at the end of the flip?
Well, probably
it's because she's hanging from a harness. It's because she's hanging from a harness.
Angular momentum. So she's creating angular momentum about her center of gravity by raising her legs. That's what I'm not an expert on that shit, but that's what I suspect.
I love hearing your answers. They're fascinating.
All
why does this fruit that's on this table over here, why isn't it floating away?
Why isn't it floating? Well, I don't know. Well, I'd like to see footage.
Good answer.
Like to see footage of that. If it's not floating, if it's sitting there like it's under gravity, I'd be suspicious.
Here is one of the dumbest people in the world. He's showing how he put coffee in a used plastic piece and he's drinking it. But now this is being done. This is all CGI, and the coffee, the color gets separated from the bag.
Yeah.
Why did the color that he was drinking? Why did it get separated?
I don't know. That might be a camera. That might be a camera artifact, but I don't know.
Camera artifact. I love how you just take people, and not just you, everyone does it.
That is pretty poor quality footage. I mean, look at
how about this one?
How
about this one? Chris Hatfield loves playing his guitar, and this guy in another room and in front of another green screen is holding the microphone, and he misplaces where Chris is, and he sticks the microphone in his neck. Are you going to say artifact for this one? The microphone is inside Chris's neck right now.
Let me see that again.
It's right there. It's inside Chris's neck.
Ah.
It's because they're not in the same room. They're in front of green screens, and and it's not real. Watch this. These guys sometimes, when they move their hand, see how his hand glitched there. I understand there are artifacts like that, but watch what happens here. Artifact. Watch what happens here, right where my finger's pointing. Green screen. Boom. Green screen. Okay. Why are they in front? Why are they in front of green screens? Mm-hmm. Right. And here's another one. They're always flipping the microphone around, something else around. These guys were doing this thing. This guy's flipping his hat around, and way in the distance, this guy goes floating by, and he's really small, really far away. Well, I zoomed in. It's a tiny little fraction of the frame, and you can see his harness and the wire. And so the NASA apologists come back and they go, well, they wear harnesses for safety on the space station. What?
When did they say that?
No, these are NASA apologists. Someone that's a little farther removed from reality than you are. That they make up excuses.
There's no need to get nasty, Dave.
I wasn't getting nasty. I was kind of trying to be funny, and sometimes it comes out that way. Listen, I like you. You're making up excuses. All right. I apologize for that comment. Now watch it in the script. He's supposed to hand the hat to him. That guy just thought he handed him the hat, and he puts it away. This is called augmented reality. Okay.
that one is pretty weird.
A pretty good one. So this is how it works. This is real. It's filled with helium. It's floating. Mm-hmm. This is not real. Oh, where did that come from? Okay. This is not real. This is called augmented reality. And she's manipulating it like it's real, talking to kids. Okay. And so this is how it's done. There's commercially available software that you can manipulate fake objects and move them around. In the television show Third Rock from the Sun, there's a guy who's on the space station and he's flipping a pen around. He's doing all of this stuff, right? And people are arguing that, oh, they really filmed that on the space station. I'm like, no, they didn't, right? So they use different effects. This is one that's not done on a zero G plane. This is real. This is not real. Real, not
Now,
real.
who did that? That's a kid. That's a video for kids. That beaming in effect, the Star Trek
Yeah,
effect. There is
NASA did
that's on
that.
the video.
NASA did that, and they actually added the sound effect also.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Weird.
I mean,
It's like, why are they doing it that way? Why they're making, hey, they're faking the whole thing just to
well, they
make it.
might be trying to do something neat for the kids with that
Well,
one.
why don't they do something neat in space
one.
rather than make up something in space?
Yeah, if space is, yeah, I agree with you on that.
Right. And then this one, after their press conference, they're all hanging from wires. Everything that was floating in the foreground, including them, glitched out, and then they quickly snapped away and they went back to mission control. Okay. And then people say, "Well, it's an artifact." Okay. So here's Chris Hadfield showing how when he wrings water out it clings to the washcloth. Well, here are people doing the exact same experiment on a zero G plane, and if you watch Chris Hadfield do it, there's in this video, it's like cut, edit, and then you watch, it's like, oh, this is creased differently, and he's in a little. Every cut is a different zero G plane. You know what a zero G flight is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they do multiple cuts, they put it all together, and it's edit, like 1 second, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 4 seconds. Okay, and they edit it all together, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I have a video on my channel, DITRH, over here, called "I Have to Go to the Bathroom." And if you believe that the space station's real after watching that, the analysis of the bathroom, then there's no helping anybody that can watch that and see it. So this is nonsense that's being done on a zero G plane, and this is the same thing. Now watch. This is both the zero G plane. This one happens to look like the space shuttle. Okay, zero G plane. Now watch it. This was live on the news, and they slammed into the wall. Right, the news was all excited that they were going to have the astronauts on, and they only had them for like in their orbit for like 45 seconds.
So you think that they're doing some of this footage from the zero G planes?
They never do it live anymore from the zero G plane because crap goes wrong. So I'm going to show you this again, but they quickly cut away, and then they're like, "Oh, we're getting worried." The space station had an emergency. It shifted, or they said that it was using its jets to shift its orbit, and that's why they slammed into the wall. Cool story, but like if you're on the space station and it's about to do a rocketed maneuver to adjust its orbit, don't you think there'd be some procedures and some safety and
yes, there absolutely would be unless it was very small, minor thing, and you never do enough any kind of maneuver that would cause that sort of violence inside the spacecraft.
Welcome to Space is Fake, my friend. Welcome to Space is Fake.
It's not about well ahead.
We look at that. I'm looking for the full one. Oh, here's the Big Bang. He's on the space station, and this is just a montage of stuff. But I'm trying to find where's the one that I had that showed that longer. Actually, let me find that. I don't think I can find it. All right, we'll go from there. So this is called the Argos system. And it's this wire system that NASA practices doing their spacewalks. And compare it to a spacewalk. It's the same thing. These guys are hanging from wires. This is nonsense. Okay?
Well, it's possible they're hanging from wires. I'll grant you that.
Okay. Hey, I'll take it. And then this one, they're showing him. I'm comparing it to Wimpy trying to eat his burger, and it keeps disappearing. Watch right over here. See this thing on the wall? I can see it through his body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good.
There's no right-hand turns on a zero G plane, so they faded him out. Okay.
Wow.
Fascinating, right?
Yep.
And this guy. The ball lost its helium and it fell down. This guy tries to get it and he can't. And they're like, "Quick, no, don't go back. You know, she's like, "Stop."
Well, he did
push
it down with the motion of his arm.
He did push
it down. So in a weightless environment, it still might behave just like that.
Yeah, but these guys, they're all standing there. They're all holding themselves. They're hanging from wires.
Maybe
right? Why do they have these heavy belts on in space? Their shirts are tucked in. they look like they have diapers on. Maybe they do have diapers on, right?
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't use that bathroom. It's unbelievable how bad it is. So they're faking everything up there because
Okay.
nobody is up there, right? And I'm sure you've seen the ISS go by, right?
Yeah.
You've seen it go by. I mean, have you ever tracked it? Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, I've gone outside when it was supposed to be up there, and I believe I've seen it. But
And I've seen it too.
Now I don't know.
It shows up on the horizon. I see it brighter than any star in the sky. Well, how's it reflecting to my eyes? And then somebody 100 miles away from me, or because when you reflect the sun, it only goes in one direction. Like if you and someone else were 10 feet apart, and I got a mirror and reflected it at your face, the other guy wouldn't see the sun in the mirror. Well, how is this reflective ISS reflecting it to everybody? And then I watch it. It took 8 minutes to go across the sky. Well, 8 minutes times 17,500 miles an hour. It should be in California already, but I could still see it in Connecticut. Okay. And people in California can't see it.
It is 250 miles up in space or whatever. So you got to figure that out too. You got to. I don't do math, so I'm not going to do math. So
and that's what they've trained us. They trained us to not do math and trust the guy in a white lab coat. Here's the moon. Both of them are about the same size, so the zoom is about the same. Here's an airplane transiting the moon, and here is the International Space Station transiting the moon. How the hell are they the same size when this one's 50 times farther away? 50 times farther away.
Interesting.
Or
question.
is it? Yeah, thank you. That's all I want is an interesting.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Dave, I hate to stop you because I am having a great time, and I certainly appreciate you coming here.
Give me one more minute. One more minute.
All right, one more minute, and then but I want to let everybody go and get on with my
one more minute.
Well, so thank you.
For those of you that think this is crazy, I have a challenge for you. I created an app. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. It gets by Google censorship. Okay, wow. It lets you find, if you Google flat Earth, you find nonsense. You find the stuff that they want you to find. You find all propaganda. You and I could agree they don't want us to know the truth. And we never got into the why the lie. But in the app, if you hit the question mark, up comes all of the questions that you could ask. But down here, why the lie? Hit that puppy, and up comes great videos that'll really explain why this lie matters, why this is happening in the world. The app. The challenge I have is every day there's a new featured video right here. You tap that thumbnail, bam, up comes the video. Watch it every day for 2 weeks. At the end of that 2 weeks, if you think you have one proof that we live on a spinning globe, send it to me. You get 3 Bitcoins.
So it's this one here, the Flat Earth Clock.
It's the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app by Blue Water Bay. All of my links. Yeah, $2.99. Right? And there's a fake one out there already on Google Play. But if you're unsure, just go to flatearthdave.com and everything's there. All right. But if you don't want to wait the 2 weeks, you can hit the archive button. You get all the old videos. There's books. There's all sorts of stuff, homeschooling information, different languages, more resources, tons of stuff in here. This is one of my favorites. Rockets are blimps. I encourage you to watch all of those videos. It'll blow your mind. And the app, there's also, the last thing I want to show you is this is the app Friend Finder, right? And for those of you that are big flat earthers, you kind of want to find other people like-minded. Well, let us load for a second. This is showing you all the other people that have the app that are near me. I can message them. I could check out their profiles. I could do all sorts of stuff, right? And if we look across the world, right, you think flat earth is a joke. Look at the UK. Look at this. This is the UK. These are the people that have my app. There's many more flat earthers that don't have my app. We go over to the United States. Look at this. Where are you located? Seattle?
Seattle, yeah.
Yeah, you got some people up there or out there or wherever you want to call it. But there's flat earthers everywhere. So again, the app is literally just go read the reviews. Flat Earth.
Do I have a referral code, Dave? Do I have a referral code I can use?
You do. Yeah. So the referral code is for me is 51518. I'll take it. 51518. Now, there is a subscription, but you do not need to do the subscription. The only thing the subscription is for is if you want to be able to send messages to other people or use and manage profiles. That keeps the trolls away. And it's $10 a year, or $11 a year. It's like buying me a margarita. Okay.
Okay, I got it. I put $2.99 in your pocket there, bud.
You're the best. And so check it out. And listen, just start off by watching the video and checking out the frequently asked questions. The daily video is the best, and then the frequently asked questions, which is the question mark, and you'll at least become more curious. And another, just last thing is, a curious mind is what keeps you young. If you lose your curiosity, you're going to get old and die. Okay, you're going to get old and die if you lose your curiosity. So always stay curious and keep your mind active. And flat earthers will tell you that we're never bored because there's so much to learn rather than walk around in zombie land and not know what the hell's going on in the world.
Right. By the way,
everything.
I'm trying to get into your site. I'm trying to get into flatearthdave.com, and it says the site can't be reached, but I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, that's what I got. Anyway,
let's
flatearthdave.com.
Try the Flat Earth podcast. Let me know if that works. Flat Earth Dave.
Flat Earth.
Let's see. Flat Earth Dave. Oh, I'm in.
Are you?
That's weird. Flat Earth, EARTH, Dave.com or the Flat Earth Podcast.com.
I've got the Flat Earth Podcast.
That's the same. It's the same site. It's just a forward. The other one is just easy to remember.
I wonder why.
On there.
Anyway.
Yeah. So on there, you can if you know of a radio show or your own show, you want to book me. There's a link there. If you need support for the app, having any issues, there's a support button. There's my interview channels are there. My short videos are there. There's all sorts of stuff. There's also the crash course. I highly recommend people take that. It's just a bunch of full-length videos that will blow your mind. They'll actually blow your mind. And then also, for those of you that have an Apple Watch, there's a free Apple Watch face that you can put in there, so you can have a cool flat Earth on there. So there's tons of free stuff on the website right there. That's the crash course.
Yeah,
and all sorts of stuff. So check it out. Get the app. Don't get the app. I don't care. I just want you to have the right tools to show people. Another thing in the app, which is super fun, is if we go to right here. Whoops. Here we go. Sorry about that. Oh, look at that. My referral just showed up. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
So let's just go away. And if you hit this button right here, these are images. So when you're talking to people about the flat Earth, you can say, hey, look, the Georgia Guidestones, the North Star never moves from that hole. How is that possible while we're corkscrewing billions of miles every year? How is that possible that it never moves from there unless we're stationary? And you could show there's all sorts of stuff. How's the sun 93 million miles away when we have the sun looking like this sometimes? Kind of looks more like a local light somehow. And again, this world is stranger than you could imagine. There's all sorts of stuff in here. Hey, how come NASA is showing us crappy photoshopped images of Saturn, right? Look at that. That is clearly pasted together. I guess they didn't think that we were going to have Photoshop and be able to go in and crank up the levels on their nonsense. Yeah. Right? Wait, last thing.
Sure.
If we live here, perhaps there's more land out here. Extra territory, extra terra, extraterrestrials that live in the outer space here on the Earth. Extraterrestrials. What if we live here in this planet, this small section of our plane, and out here are other planets? Okay? Planets.
Pretty interesting.
You zoom out, and these are all within reasonable distances, 10,000, 100,000, 500,000 miles, maybe closer, okay? Versus trillions of miles, impossible. The closest star is 25 trillion miles away. That's a distance that doesn't make any sense, okay?
Well,
a trillion seconds. Do you know how long a trillion seconds is? How long is a trillion seconds?
I don't know, but I know
it's that 31,000 years.
Yeah,
okay?
$1 trillion is you'd have to spend $1 million a day for 2,700 years to spend.
Something like it's crazy how we
a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So that's it. I'll go from there.
Okay. So, Dave, I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming very much. There are a few things that I have a hard time explaining. There are others that I think I can explain pretty well. And I think it's all fascinating. We agree on one thing, which is that NASA lies through their teeth about a whole lot of things That doesn't mean we didn't go to the moon, doesn't mean we didn't go to Mars, doesn't mean there aren't planets. But I think we have to remain open to this. I would say that when we came into this, I was 95% the Earth is a globe. I'd say after this, I'm
89%. You mean 89?
That the Earth is a globe. So
wait a minute, you went higher?
You bring up
you were 89 to 92. Wait a minute, you just got more
95
confident?
to 92. So you
95. All right, I'll take it.
But you bring up some good questions that I would like to dig into and know the answers to before I could categorically say that you're wrong, which I'm not going to say.
Hit the frequently asked questions button in the app, and when you're chilling on the couch, when you're having your breakfast, whatever, watch a video. Watch just one video a day, okay? And
okay.
And that's it. So there's so many questions in the chat. Maybe we'll after you do this for a couple months, we'll come back and we'll do more questions and maybe answer the questions in the chat.
I think it would be good. I think it would be good next time to have you come in, do 10 minutes to catch everybody up, and then let's just go to questions and see what people
100%. 100%. Right. People say they took pictures of Saturn. I took pictures of Saturn. It's a light. It's small. It's provably not reflecting sunlight. So we'll go from there. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Man. Thank you very much for being here. That, folks, is Flat Earth Dave. I'd like to thank him for being on the show. That's going to wrap up Deep Thought Thursday. And we went deep. You can't argue we didn't go deep on Deep Thought Thursday this week. Thanks for being here, everybody. I love you. I'll be back with Jen tomorrow on Free Reading Friday. And again, everybody, hey, don't pick on Dave. It's not fair, and he's not going to be here to defend himself. And so we're not going to tolerate that. We're not going to tolerate anybody picking on Dave. Have a good day. Be a good human. I will see you all tomorrow with Jen. I love you guys, and I am out of here.